me. I'm on my laptop and I want to read something. It's the NATO meeting, the Extraterrestrial, and the content of the report says opens the eyes of Dean on UFOs and extraterrestrial intelligence as he recounts his account with NATO and meeting the ETs. So I'm going to flip this around. You can see this was like a 4-page paper. And look at that little emblem like that. I'm going to read it right there. Veteran of the U.S. Especially decorated Army who served out the front in Korea and Vietnam. Dean is now retired. So I'm going to flip this around and I'm going to read it. And it's 4 pages. This will probably go into my podcast. The veteran of the U.S. Especially decorated Army who served on the front in Korea and Vietnam, Dean is now retired. Let me know if you can hear it too. Well, I can probably find out myself if I go over here. If I log on to the internet, I might be able to see if I can hear it. Because I know they don't normally allow me to hear very much things. Let me see if I can get over here. It's like the comments don't come on, but that's okay. Let me see if I can get to my channel. That's the only way I'm going to be able to find out if I can even be heard on here. If it's showing me live. I'm not seeing nothing yet. Okay, I'm showing myself live, I guess. If I can see if I can be heard, because there's no comments being allowed on here. I don't want to read this and not be heard. That's just what I'm saying. So you can see, I'm going to see if I can be heard. I'm going to read this report. Let me pause this. Okay, I can be heard. All right, that's fine. I can be heard, so I'm going to hold on one second. I'm going to see if I can shrink this down and have this window open. I can have this down. So Dean was commander of an infantry unit in combat in Korea and the Vietnam, and participated in the operations of intelligence in Laos, Cambodia, and North Vietnam. From 1963, he was posted to the SHOC, the Military Chamber of Shape, which is rather interesting. The Chamber of Shape. Look, they've got a Supreme Allied Commander. It's really interesting. They named it Saucer, Shape, and Saucer. These are really strange names. Good morning, everyone. Violet and Kathy. From 1963, he was posted to the SHOC, the Military Chamber of Shape, such as intelligence analysts with accreditation, cosmic top secret level. At that time, the SHOC, the SHOC, is led by the General Lemnitzer, Supreme Commander of Forces Allies in Europe. The sound is low. I wonder why the sound is low. Can you hear it now? Because it shouldn't be low, but obviously it could be low. Alicia, honey, can you hear me? It's a lot better. I want to make sure it's really better because I want this to be heard loud and clear. Always being in his position, he participated in the relocation of the headquarters to the new site in Belgium. He worked in the operations division and as a member of the team of command worked there with Saucer, the Supreme Allied Commander Europe, that he sees at that time almost every day. After his testimony, it is when it is in the shape that was born his interest in UFOs. One night, while he was in service, Dean retrieves a report from the payload bay of the shape named Estimate Security, an evaluation of threat military as possible for the Allied forces in Europe. This report has the highest security classification. The highest security classification. It's a cosmic top secret. And it still remains this classification today. Hello, Applebrooks, honey. The content of this report, it opens the eyes of Dean on UFOs and extraterrestrial intelligence as he recounts in his account, NATO meets ET. I'm reading an account, a 4-page account of a sergeant to NATO and the extraterrestrials. The shape was one of these choice of assignment. You need to have a record without task and pass safety tests. I fiss a fad and finally get it. Pass a I don't know what that means. In shape is some kind of organization or something, I don't know. I had a high level of security, whether cosmic top secret accreditation, yes, it's a real term, the highest of NATO, and was assigned to the Center of Command Supreme Headquarters Operations Center, known under the name SHOCK, the military house of NATO. Activity at this time could well warm up to calm down, and it depended primarily on the way in which the Soviets had to play the part. The more troubling thing to me was the problems we met regularly with the large circular metal objects, which were regularly appeared in Central Europe. They had reported by pilots and had also been detected by radar. Some flew in formation and seemed to mostly come from the Soviet Union, passing over Germany of the west of France, for finally often turned somewhere over the channel and towards the north, disappearing screen radar to NATO over the Norway Sea. These objects were very large, moving very rapidly at particularly high altitudes, higher than where we could go to the time, and seemed clearly to an intelligent control. So there are flying metal discs that can form in formation, and they're very large. And these are being seen by NATO, and this just so happens to be coming primarily in the way which the Soviets had to. They come in from Russia, they're flying over Germany, from the Soviet Union over Germany to the west of France. This could be one of the reasons why there is so much interest in what's going on now over there. It really could be. There's something much more to it. We all know that, because it's like something strange. Well, my hat says I got a mission. Can you see it? It's a mission. I'm on a mission. So I thought I'm going to put it on, because I'm on a mission is what I am. I'm on a mission. So let's put it up here with a little bit of flair. It was learned that such events were taking place for a time, and that it had even a sacred fear in February of 1961. 50 of these objects were detected on radar, moving to Europe in training since the Soviet Union at an altitude of 3,000 meters. The Soviets then closed their borders. Everyone went on red alert. We Tressalims and then actually thought that the war had begun. We thought that the war had begun. This is 1961. It was the largest number of these objects ever observed. Fortunately, and only to the grace of God, we do land cames, not our missiles, and Russians also. In 9 minutes, they disappeared. So these were 50 large flying saucers is what it is. They disappear on radar screen. They are large, circular metal objects, which had also been detected by radar. So there were 50 of them. I knew that the Supreme Commander of Allied Forces in Europe, Sir Thomas Pike, asked several times information in London and Washington about these objects without any response. We later learned that the network of espionage, Columbine, Topaz, Paris, intercepted all and communicated it to the KGB, who won so regularly even before secret information that we received. Pike decided, based on what I am told, to conduct an internal study to determine whether these objects represent a military threat. Let me go to the next page. There's 4 of these. This, you can see it was I didn't want to download it on here, but there's 4. This is a recollection of the extraterrestrials with NATO. So I'm going to try to read it. At the same time, the UFO phenomenon literally caused the establishment of direct communications between East and West in 1962. That I traverse still enough finds interesting and ironic. We had fully established then that these devices were not Russian devices, and that the Russians had established that they were not ours either. We managed then mutual understanding, and a direct line was opened between Shock and the command of QG of the Warsaw Pact. This could, of course, always be a mounted blow. This is why they assured us the sincerity of the Russians by various means. However, as each of our armed to the teeth part, the threat, these must have been written by AI. Each of us were armed to the teeth part, and the threat of a third world war was always above our heads. It was logically a step in the right direction. This idea was developed at the establishment of a line between the President of the United States and the Russian Prime Minister at the time of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Therefore, at the time where I was able in 1963, everyone had heard of the reports, and I had the opportunity to hear rumors, see signals on the radar, found the bustle of each, and even to hear the evocation of certain possibilities in this regard. However, there is no me started to read what I read in the first hours of a night of January of 1964. It should be within 2 hours of the morning, a relatively calm night, when the shock support controller entered the vault and falls in with this huge document. Take therefore an oil on it, he said. The title was a simple estimate, an evaluation of a possible military threat to the Allied forces in Europe. The document was numbered 3 seals stamped cosmic top secret, and included a 20 centimeter of thickness of annexes, 30 for the photographs, and had been signed in the vault by the Colonel German Heinz Berger, Chief of Security of the Shock. I learned quickly that the document in question was based on 2.5 years of research that had been funded by the fund of NATO, and that Only 15 copies in it had been edited in English, French, and German. Each of them was numbered, each also subject to the secrecy and should absolutely be kept under key. I'm reading the third page. The responsibility for the autopsy concluded, according to the report, that they seemed manufactured as it could cheaply, would be cookies clones without digestive systems. They have ingested or dealt with no food as we know it, and also had apparently not a disposal system. So these were occupants, I would assume, that came out of an aircraft. The aircraft itself was cut into 6 pieces. It installed on carriers and towed. Shuttleboat was given to the Americans and ferried by aircraft to the base of the Air Force Wright-Patterson in Ohio. I was looking at these photographs and I could not believe it. I had goosebumps. I had never really thought that we were alone in the universe, but this was difficult to accept. The main conclusions of the report of the NATO souffle rent me literally. There were 5 conclusions. The planet and the human race had been the subject of a careful consideration on the part of various and different extraterrestrial civilizations, whose 4 had visually identified. One of these races appeared at any point similar to ours. Another had a size, stature, and a structure similar to ours, but with a very gray and earthly skin tone. The third race is totally commonly known as that of the gray, and the 4th was described as reptilian, with vertical pupils and lizard-like skin. You can see that. These are the races. They had reptilian, vertical pupils with lizard-like skin. These foreign visits take place since a very long period, at least 200 years. Aliens appeared to show no hostility, since if such had been their intention, they have already done demonstration of their malice. They would have. The appearances and rapid disappearance of UFOs as their flights were demonstrations to show us some of their capabilities. As a process or program, any appeared to emerge in backdrop flights were gradually transforming landings and contacts. We have NATO and the extraterrestrials that we're reading. I'm not reading all the way through it. I'm pausing. And they got the remains of a UFO and the occupants, they were talking about them, and they have identified altogether over 2 years 4 races of beings that are on this earth. And the reptilians are one of them. I absolutely wanted to make a copy of this. I took a photograph of the cover, which was not inside, obviously not classified. However, not wanting to find me at Fort Leavenworth, I went surreptitiously to take notes in the bathroom with great caution. I have lived many terrible things in my life, but never could I forget this report. I am aware of the risk that I am violating my oaths. But this is the most important issue of our time, so much that I can't imagine something more important, while the public was wrong and plunged into total ignorance of all of this. Since all of these years, it is the largest scandal, scientific and political, of all times. And in any event that I so have to lose, I am 64 years old today. Will remove me? Will they remove me? I told the truth. The evidence are my integrity and my credibility. When our government decides to tell the truth, when will our government tell the truth, it said. When will our government tell the truth? Dean left the shocked shape in 1967. Then the Army in 1976 after 27 years of service. After reading the evaluation, he devoted himself to communicate to the general public the real facts on the UFO phenomenon in contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. Regarding the story of Dean, the Lieutenant Colonel Rainer Ott of the Air Force German, the director of the Department of Sections Media Office of Public Affairs at SHAPE said, "Our list of secret documents generated by the SHAPE does not include any title similar to the one cited by Mr. Dean to date. Military personnel are in all circumstances kept under national control. Information on the level of security granted to Mr. Dean, if to have granted, may be provided by the U.S. authorities." Indicates Kufo's Jerome codes. He's a fascinating history. Unless independent checks can be made, this will only remain one troubling story, like many others circulating around the recent period UFOs. I think there's another page. This is like 4 pages. Let me get to the next one. You can see after the Army, Dean began a career of 14 years in the Department of the Emergency of the Sheriff of the County of Pima, Tucson, Arizona. In 1990, he made a conference at the university in Arizona in which he talks about the UFOs. The declaration supplies the local press. Later, he is denied a promotion in the Department of Sheriff because, according to him, he believed in UFOs. Dean then brought legal action and gets damages and interest in 1992. Dean's efforts are moving many to obtain immunity for former military personnel members, which could bring some light on the question of UFOs, allowing them to testify before a hearing of the Congress without fear of long losing their pensions or of persecution. Now retired, he became a member of many organizations related to UFOs and to begin to perform a few occasional conferences. It is trying by all legal means to obtain a copy of the document of NATO and gather witnesses for a Congress on UFOs. He also stated that the Antares module astronauts during Apollo 14 mission in 1971 observed a huge object whose windows reflect a very bright light while flying over the craters Landsberg A and C. They pay off a series of images of these experiences. Dean is the author of the UFO Anthology, Volume 1, and continues to appear in television programs. This is like, it starts off with NATO in Europe. And if you did not know, at the White House, NATO meeting is taking place. It is at the White House right now. They're gathering. Let me see if I can get it. NATO and the White House. If you didn't realize it, White House, Washington. NATO and Biden. They're meeting. His week of reckoning. As NATO convenes, the leaders worry about a hole in the center. What if this right here, world leaders arrive in U.S. for NATO summit? What if what's truly going on over there in that area has something to do with the flying saucers and stuff, because that's a lot of money, a lot of manpower, a lot of war power to throw into that area. It seems ridiculous at this point, the amount of money that's going over there in that area. And according to the document, that's where this stuff took place. It took place over in Russia. The UFOs were coming from the Russian area, if you're just tuning in. And this is called the NATO meeting of the extraterrestrials. This is a veteran of Vietnam. And some say that Vietnam, it was about the aliens. Have you heard that in Vietnam, people said it was much more than what met the eye, and that truly it was about flying saucers and all of this kind of stuff that took place over there. Grand Rising, if you're just tuning in, just reading a 4-page thing, and there was breaks in it, I just want to tell you. But it was from a document that was read by this sergeant who was decorated in Vietnam and Korea. It was 1963. He was working with, this is really strange that they named that saucer, the Supreme Allied Command in Europe gave it the name saucer. And we're talking about cosmic top secret level clearance, some form of something called shape. We're talking about Cambodia and Vietnam also. There's something, oh shoot, there's something much greater taking place. It's one night, this guy, he was in service. He retrieved a report from the payload bay of shape named Estimate Security, and an evaluation of the military threat as possible Allied forces in Europe. Report had the highest security classification, cosmic top secret. In there, this is what he read right here. It opens the eyes of him. The shape was one of these choice assignments. You have to have a record without task to pass whatever, so he did. This was from the Supreme Headquarters Operations Center, known as SHOC, S-H-O-C, Military House, NATO. Activity at this time could well warm up to the calm down. The troubling thing was, this was the problems. There was problems right here. The problems we met regularly with large circular metal objects which were regularly appearing in Central Europe. They had been reported by pilots and had also been detected by radar. Some flew in formation and seemed to mostly come from the Soviet Union, passing over Germany of the German west of France, for finally often turned somewhere over the channel towards the north and disappearing screen radar to NATO over the Norway Sea. These objects were very large, moving rapidly at particularly high altitudes, higher than where we could go to the time, and it seemed clearly to an intelligent control. It was learned that such events were taking place for a time already, and that it had even a sacred fear, and this is fear they're talking about. In February of 1961, 50 of these objects were detected on radar, moving to Europe in training since Soviet Union at an altitude of 3,000 meters. The Soviets then closed their borders. Everyone went on red alert, and we trusted our minds and then actually thought that the war had begun. It was the largest number of these objects ever observed. Fortunately, and only to the grace of God, we do something, not our missiles and Russian also. I guess they don't launch them in 9 minutes, or they launched them, they disappeared in 9 minutes. There was, this is a report. You can find it. Where can you find it, Gina? I'll show you where you can find it. I think I've already messed it up. So just type in the heading, if I can get back to it. It was a specific heading, and it's titled right here, the NATO meeting of extraterrestrial. The NATO meeting the extraterrestrial. Type that in, you'll pull out the report. There's something going on, I really do, because this doesn't make sense over there in Ukraine with all of that in Russia. There's something much, much greater. And there's been pyramids seen in the Black Sea, right? And there's like flying saucers and stuff over there. Excuse, my nose is starting to tickle. There's got to be more to it, and they're meeting right now in Washington, D.C. NATO is, the heads of government. And NATO was formed in, when was NATO formed? Let me see, 1949. Isn't that interesting? 2 years after the Roswell incident. Look at that. Look at that symbol. 2 years after the Roswell incidents, we have the North Atlantic Treaty Organization in 1949 by the United States, Canada, and several Western European nations to provide collective security against the Soviet Union. Why does it always have to be against the Soviet Union? Because this is where the flying saucers were reported coming out of that area. And remember, in the Soviet Union, around that area, they had the, it was, I'm going to put this in a podcast. It was the gate of hell, the gates of hell, or the hole from hell. Methane gas. It was just a big open pit. Russian hole. Is it Russian hole? This is really the Davarza crater. Oh, that's the Turkmenistan. Oh, it's the gates of hell. Okay, it's the gates of hell. Is the gates of hell crater still burning? 53 years later. See, if you think about it, 53 years later, despite Turkmenistan's president announcing plans to close the gates of hell, the Davars gas center crater is still a raging blaze. The crater sits on top Amu Darya Basin. A highly productive oil and natural gas province stretches across Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan, the gates of hell. It's a massive man-made sinkhole that has been burning methane gas for decades. It has been said that it was intentionally set alight by the Soviet authorities, hoping it would burn off in a matter of weeks. Is it possible that this gates of hell, this massive sinkhole, which there's all kinds of sinkholes around the world, that those flying saucers came in out of that place? There's more to it than what meets the eye. And the flying saucers have the technology to fly straight through it. Look at that. I mean, I'm going to put in the aliens, the UFOs. UFOs. Metallic. Metallic. Why are they burning? I don't think they accidentally. Do you think they accidentally discovered the gates of hell? Look, this is just now popping up 2 weeks ago. How the Soviets accidentally discovered the gates of hell, located in Turkmenistan's Karakum Desert, Darvaza crater, massive man-made. 2 weeks ago. Why is this in the news 2 weeks ago, you all? This does not feel good to me. I'm just going to tell you right now, it does not feel good to me, this showing up again. And reading this right here, the NATO meeting of extraterrestrials, and this literally happened in the Soviet Union. They came from the Soviet area. They had been reported by pilots, large circular metal objects which were regularly appearing in Central Europe. They had been reported by pilots and had also been detected by radar, and some flew in formation, and they seemed to mostly come from the Soviet Union. 50 of them. There were 50 of them at one time. How many were they? They had sacred fear when they saw them. Sacred fear. 1961, 50 of these objects. This makes my body feel weird on the inside. It really does. It's like a... it's like I can feel the spiritual me all through the outline of my body. It kind of like moved a little. This doesn't feel right at all with the gates of hell and NATO being in Washington, D.C. NATO and Biden. This is the news. This is the summit. Their 75th anniversary summit in Washington concluded by political chaos. No, This has got to be, it's way, this thing that's happening over there is way too big to be just what they're saying it is. It's way too big. It's way, way off. Way too big. Do you feel it's way too big? Because they're being really quiet. And now this gates of hell is coming back up in the news just recently. The hellish desert pit. It's been on fire for more than 50 years. The Darvaza crater, the USSR top secret desert mystery. Its origin. They burn in it. See, they brought it up. They keep bringing it back up. They're working on, it's been burning for 51 years, the door to hell. It's like, it's a 50-year inextinguishable. And it does feel like the gates of hell have been opened, but I thought they put it out. I guess they didn't. I'm feeling that they did not name that just because it's burning fire. It's what also can come out of that fire. Because if you remember going to the craters in Hawaii, there is interdimensional UFO activity that is occurring there, and we've documented it, and we've got a lot of flack. I've got a lot of flack from the activity that has, I'm on a mission, from the activity that we reported there from the Canada, France, Hawaii telescope. Specifically, someone who claimed to work there has come at me full throttle, jumped on the hate group on Facebook that hates Gina Maria Colvin Hill. He's made various accounts on the YouTube. I blocked them all. He's literally, reportedly works at that place, but yet comes against every single thing. I've had to block him. He'd come on and just make horrible comments, and that's not of the light. There is a push out there by the darkness. There is, to keep the secret of the darkness from coming to the light. These UFOs, whether they be interdimensional, there is an interdimensional hypothesis that Google will slap on the videos, interdimensional UFO, and there's something going on, the gates of hell, the this right here, the UFO, NATO's meeting, 50 of them in a row, and there was something else that showed up in the, this is going in a podcast, there's something else that showed up in the Peddler Mall visit that I did, where I saw the Millennium Falcon model, and the I picked up a binder of Stargate. I don't watch movies, but they were CDs. It was $20. They were full of Star Trek series and Stargate series. And also there was some kind of movie also that I picked up. I think it was like $1. It was The Battle for Los Angeles. And the Battle for Los Angeles, they say that it never existed. They say the Battle for Los Angeles never existed. But there's too many recollections. It's a movie. I wanted to watch it. Yeah, look at this. I think that was aliens also. A global invasion. For many years, humans have reported various UFO sightings around the world, fueling speculation about the existence of life. In 2011, mankind learns the truth the hard way when alien invaders attack. One of the world's great cities falls, leaving Los Angeles as the battleground. The battle is taking place over there in the that region where Russia's located. That's why so much money is being thrown over there. That's why it doesn't make sense. That's why it doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. You don't throw a lot of money somewhere and throw a lot of manpower. There's something going on, and I think it's some extraterrestrials involving. Look at this. In January of 1942, U.S. forces engaged in an unidentified flying object. Not just one. They wouldn't do that just for one. Now, almost 70 years later. 70 years later, the 75th anniversary and then, you know, let's go on down the rabbit hole. Let's go down the rabbit hole. Watch this. Is May the 14th of 48. Right there, Harry Truman. Harry Truman, 1947. Roswell. We've already went here, but we'll go again. The Roswell incident. Collection of events and myths. See, they calling them a myth now. No, sorry, the truth is out. 47 crash of a balloon. No. See, look how they're trying to... Look, there's the Soviet Union again. The 1947 crash of a United States Army Air Force balloon near Roswell, near the Alamogordo Army Field, part of the Project Mogul. The balloon was intended to detect, now see. So we have that. And then we have, was it the Groom Lake incident. Now y'all just hold on. I'm putting this in a podcast. Area 51. Okay, we got, I don't know about that. What was the Dead Sea Scrolls also? We'll do the Dead Sea Scrolls. They all of a sudden pop up. They do, these pop up just like that in the time frame. Dead Sea Scrolls, find. Let's see when they pop up. The Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered in a series of 12 caves, the 12, whatever, 46 and 56. It's where they found in 47. It's all around the same time frame. The first 7 of them, the first 7 Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered by chance in 1947. Do you believe that, by chance? Because it's no. No. I don't believe by, I am at this point in my life where I don't believe in coincidences. I don't know. There is synchronicity that is playing out and has been playing out, and it's starting to make sense. It is. Good morning, Sabrina. You think it's money laundering, Chiquita, honey? I think it's a lot more than that. I'm going to look at it from an alien point of view over there. I really am. I'm looking at it as a UFOs and the Black Sea. The Black Sea. An all-species invasion. The UFOs over the Russia, the Black Sea oil refinery, encyclopedia of UFO in the Black Sea drone, trends of aquatic alien invasions, UFO reports are piquing NASA's interest around 75 years into the obsession. Well, then why was NATO formed 75 years ago? Okay, you have to ask yourself, 75 years ago, NATO is formed, and you're saying that America is obsessed. Well, then why did NATO form? It's the time frame is like, yeah. Says it shut down a UFO. There's many different theories as to what has taken place. There is many different theories, and they range from money laundering to all this other kind of stuff over there. I'm not saying that the other stuff is not true. I don't read into that, but there's some people that say that it is true. There's a lot of speculation, but that the gates of hell are still burning, and this NATO meeting and stuff, and there is a power shift that is occurring on this earth right now as we speak, and it will continue to shift. And there's UFOs. There's 50 metal discs. There's more than 50. There's something going on. So I am going to go. I'm not going to get into politics. I don't really care for them. They kind of like, yeah, just power driven. NATO and the meeting of the extraterrestrial is what it is. Hello there, Frank, honey. How you doing, Frank? Yeah. Hello, Apple Brooks. If there's any other moderator on here, hello. Thank you all for your comments. I am going to go. I am going to stick this in a podcast. It'll be a live stream podcast because I read that. And so with that being said, hello, wherever you are in any part of the world. Hello, from my heart to yours. Love you. Have a wonderful rest of your morning. And thank you for listening. And again, there's many different theories as to why things are happening, but things don't make sense. They do not make sense. Well, in my inner being, it makes sense. I'm just going to tell you, in my inner being, it absolutely makes sense, but I'm just using the phrase, things don't make sense. But it does, but it doesn't. Have a wonderful rest of your morning. Love you.